Welcome to this explainer. Let's just jump right in and set the scene, okay? It's 1526 on a dusty, sun-baked battlefield in northern India, and history is literally about to pivot. We're looking at a moment that defined the future of an entire subcontinent. Just a single king stands on this terrain. Now, every general in his camp has told him to retreat. Every advisor has told him, if you stay, you are going to die. But Zahiruddin Muhammad Babur? Yeah, he refuses to run.
The sheer impossible math of this situation is wild. Babur has a meager force of just 12,000 soldiers standing their ground. Just imagine being in his shoes for a second. You've traveled far from home, you're exhausted, and you're looking at a horizon that is literally just filled with the enemy. Now, 12,000 is a respectable number in a vacuum, sure, but on this specific day in history, it was supposed to be a death sentence. Because that tiny army was staring down an absolute juggernaut. The Sultan of Delhi, Abraham Lodi, had brought a crushing force of over 100,000 men. And if that wasn't enough, they were backed by the ancient tanks of the battlefield, 1,000 war elephants. I mean, it was David versus a colossal Goliath. But to figure out why Babur didn't even flinch in the face of these impossible odds, we really have to rewind and look at where he came from.
This brings us to Section 1, the Wandering Boy King, from child ruler to losing it all.
So Babur was born back in 1483 in what is now modern-day Uzbekistan. And talk about pressure. He had a legendary bloodline tracing directly back to two of history's greatest conquerors, Timur and Genghis Khan. So greatness was pretty much expected from day one. But here's the catch. Inheriting the throne of Fergana at just 11 years old basically put a massive target on his back. He was constantly surrounded by rival kingdoms and these incredibly treacherous uncles who were always plotting to steal his lands. He had to grow up fast, really fast.
You know, his biggest dream was to rule his ancestors' legendary city, Samarkand. But history is brutal, right? He tried, and he failed. He tried again, and he failed again. He gave it a third shot, and yep, failed again. It's staggering. By the time he hit 21, he wasn't this glorious, unstoppable conqueror. He was a penniless, wandering prince. He lost his kingdom, his army, his wealth, the whole shebang. Literally nothing left but his ambition.
Moving on to Section 2, Tactics that Changed India. Gunpowder, strategy, and the masterclass at Panipat. But he didn't give up. Instead, he pivoted south to Kabul, gathered some allies, and just waited. Finally, in 1524, he gets this fateful invitation from Indian nobles practically begging him to help overthrow the unpopular Ibrahim Lodi. And Babur didn't just bring brave men to this fight, he brought a totally revolutionary tactical concept. It was called the Tulughma formation. This is a deadly, highly disciplined flanking maneuver. Basically, you bait the enemy into the center, draw them forward, and then simultaneously crush them from both sides. Indian armies had never really faced anything quite like it. So back to that impossible battle, the First Battle of Panipat in 1526. Lodi's massive army charges. But Babur does something genius. He cleverly chains his cannon carts together to create this unbreakable barricade. And when those cannons fired, boom. These weapons were almost unheard of in Indian warfare at the time, and the deafening noise absolutely terrified Lodi's elephants. They panicked, spun right around, and started trampling their own men. It was chaos. Meanwhile, Babur's cavalry swept in around the flanks, and that Tulughma trap snapped shut. In just a few hours, a 100,000-man army was destroyed, Lodi was dead, and Babur was the master of Delhi. And the craziest part? Panipat wasn't just a lucky fluke. Just a year later, rebellion sparked, led by Rana Sanga. This guy was a fierce Rajput king who had reportedly survived 100 battles and had 100 wounds to prove it. I mean, a truly intimidating opponent. Yet Babur used the exact same devastating combo, artillery plus those sweeping flanking maneuvers. And once again, his disciplined forces secured a completely decisive victory against a seemingly invincible king.
Let's dive into Section 3, the Poet-Emperor, Gardens, Grief, and the Baburnama.
If we take a step back and peel off the armor, we actually find a deeply cultured guy who fundamentally reshaped Indian culture. See, his soldiers absolutely hated the hot, humid Indian climate. They missed the cool breezes of Central Asia, and honestly, they just wanted to take their loot and go home. This got so bad that Babur had to deliver this famously emotional speech just to stop his homesick army from abandoning him. And to make his new empire feel a bit more like home, he introduced formal, geometric Persian gardens to the subcontinent. It was a stunning style that would go on to forever define Mughal architecture. This really perfectly captures the crazy juxtaposition of Babur. He wrote an autobiography called the Baburnama, and it isn't just some highlight reel of his military victories. No, it's a brutally honest diary, right alongside documenting his deepest anxieties, his failures, and his profound grief at leaving his homeland. He dedicated these extremely detailed notes to his newfound obsession with Indian mangoes. I love that detail. It reveals a surprisingly vulnerable, relatable, and human side to a guy who was literally a conquering warlord. Which brings us to our final chapter, Section 4, An Enduring Mughal Legacy, the Tragic End and the 300-Year Dynasty. Babur fought his entire life to build an empire, right? But he only actually got to rule it for 4 short years before tragedy struck. The legend goes that his beloved son, Humayun, fell terribly ill. Desperate and just flat-out refusing to lose his heir, Babur reportedly walked 3 times around his son's bed, literally praying to trade his own life so Humayun could live. And miraculously, Humayun recovered. But shortly after, Babur himself fell sick and passed away at just 47. He was eventually laid to rest in a beautiful garden in Kabul, finally returning to the cool climate he had missed so much. But wow, look at the massive ripple effect this one man created. Without Babur, there is no Emperor Akbar. There is no Shah Jahan. There is no Taj Mahal. His dynasty spanned over 300 years of Mughal rule, completely reshaping global culture. And from a military standpoint, he proved to historians forever that technological innovation and strict discipline will absolutely dismantle sheer numerical advantage every single time. To wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a thought-provoking question to chew on. We've seen how he lost literally everything as a boy, failed over and over as a young man, yet continuously adapted, learned, and brought down giants with just a fraction of their numbers. He was a poet, a brilliant tactician, and a deeply emotional leader whose legacy changed human history. So thinking about all the impossible odds he overcame, where does Babur truly rank among the giants of the past? Does he deserve more recognition as one of history's greatest rulers? Think about it.